Well, a very good morning and a warm welcome to one and all. My name is Drashti and I'll be your presenter for the day. Well, it brings me immense happiness and pleasure to extend a warm welcome to each one of you to the third edition of world's largest Fintech Fest, Global Fintech Fest, right here organized by National Payments Corporation of India, Payment Council of India, and Fintech Convergence Council. Also in association with Department of Economic Affairs, RBI, and IFSCA. Well, it indeed is a beautiful day, and I am delighted to share it with you all. I am sure the day is going to be quite insightful and promising as it looks like as we present to you the first very panel discussion. The topic to be addressed is Business Correspondent's Key to Uplifting Digital Quotient of Bharat, the Fintech Way. And I'd request Mr. Sunil Kulkarni, CEO, Business Correspondent Federation of India, who will be the moderator for you all. So please put your hands together for Mr. Sunil Kulkarni, and I request sir to step up on the stage, please. And in the panelists, for the very first session of the day, we have Mr. Sasidhar, who is the MD and CEO, Subk Impact Solutions Limited. We'd request him to join us on stage. Alongside with Mr. Ganesh Rao, MD and CEO, New Opportunity Consultancy. And we have Mr. Anand Bajaj. Can we please have Mr. Anand Bajaj also joining us? Founder, MD and CEO, Nearby Technology. Yes, I think your applauses could be a great help to, bring in the spirits in the right way to begin the day. We'd request Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, co-founder and chief executive officer, Spice Money, to join us on stage. We'd also request Mr. Mahesh, Jain, chairman, Integra Microsystems, to be present here on the stage, please. Thank you, sir. And last but not the least, we'd also request Mr. Ganesh Ananthanarayanan, chief operating officer, Airtel Payments Bank, for this panel discussion. All right, so this is, all right, I think sir has taken some spirits in not the right way, but I think now we put it on his shoulders that Hindi में कहते हैं जो बला आनी होती है वो टल गई, तो सर ने अपने कंधों पे लेके आज यहाँ पर ये शुभ शुरुआत कर दी. So can we please also have a huge round of applause for sir, and we're sorry for the inconvenience, of course. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd request Mr. Sunil Kulkarni to start over the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. This is a very interesting session for all of you, and especially for, I would say, the next 300 million customer, as I call it, because the first 100 to 150 million customers are having enough services, enough payment options, enough on bank accounts, etc. So the topic is that, how BC can take the fintech way, the upgrade the quotient of digital in the category B, C, D, and E towns. And that's where I think I have expert panelists here from very different quarters. So just to give you a background of BC, there are about, even before BC, let me tell you today that May of this month, we have crossed 1 billion cards, which means about 922 million debit cards and 76 million credit cards. So put together, we now have almost 922 million bank accounts. Of this, we have about, we have Shashi finally joining us. We have about 250,000 ATMs, less number of branches, but 250,000 ATMs. And these 250,000 ATMs, about 50% are on-site ATMs, which means they are attached to the same bank location where the bank branch is. So about 120 or 125,000 ATMs are off-site, of which almost 60% are in the category A and metro towns. So for rest of the country, all about 40 to 45,000 ATMs are available, and we have 650,000 villages in the country. 650,000 villages, 40,000 ATMs, and the result is you have now 2 million BC agent points. So BC agent points has brought what we call it as distributed ATM, which means today one ATM has cash deposit of something like 10 to 15 lakh in the machine. Distributed ATM, you can have a BC agent carrying as low as 50,000 rupees worth of cash or going up to 1 or 2 or 3 lakh rupees. So this 2 million BC points across all the 650,000 villages, we still haven't banked all the villages. So there are villages which are below 5,000, which are not being banked. So overall, if you look at the progress that has been made post demonetization, we today have the cash out through this distributed ATM point, which we call as a micro ATM point, is as high as 30,000 crore rupees per month, which in dollar terms is about $4 billion a month cash out. Comparing that with the ATMs, you have about 3 lakh crore or $40 billion ATM cash out per month. So that much amount of transactions have started happening. And this is being done by what is called as Aadhaar-enabled payment system. An Aadhaar-enabled payment system called AEPS, and from urban to rural, the domestic money transfer, which also about 10,000 crore per month, are the two key applications which have carried the business of business correspondent to revenue stream, which was earlier not present. So my first question is that today, when you talk about BCs, the viability of BCs is currently hinging on two key revenue streams. And again, coming back to the BCs, we have now 3 types of BCs. One is called a transaction BCs. So we have Anand, Bajaj, and we have Sanjeev Kumar from Spice Money. They are the classic example of transaction BC who have created complete difference in the BC business by creating transaction BCs. So transaction BCs do predominantly transactions, and they have started extending to other areas also, but they started with a transaction BC. Then we have what is called as branch-linked BCs. Branch-linked BCs are the BCs which are predominantly PSU bank BCs. We have one speaker who has got down with fever, Seema Prem from FIA. She is also branch-linked BC, and we have Mahesh Jain, who also happens to be chairman of the BCFI. He is also a branch-linked BC. So what they have done is that branch-linked BC have account opening, government schemes, benefit payments, apart from transactions BC that is being done. So that's the branch-linked BC. And third one is the asset BC. The asset BC is a very interesting model where asset BCs are facilitating and collection of the loans given by banks and NBFCs. Now that is, we have Sasidhar from Sabke, and we have Ganesh from New Opportunity Consultancy. They are classic asset BC. It doesn't mean that they don't do other business, but the categorization has been done based on what is the bulk revenue stream that they are getting out of the businesses. So if you look at these, today out of the 2 million BC agent points, almost about 80% are transaction BCs, about 10% are asset BCs, and about 10% are branch-linked BCs. So put together is about this thing. And then we have also payment banks which are having very high reliance on BCs. And we have with that Ganesh from Airtel Payments Bank, who has close to 400,000 BC agent points. And that's the business model, which is, I would say, again, a transaction BC model, where they are dependent on AEPS cash in, cash out, and domestic money transfer. So my first question to all the panelists is, after AEPS and DMT, what? So maybe let me first ask the question from Ganesh. Lottery system says that you are the first one. What?
Ganesh has to start with Ganesh anyways.
So after AEPS DMT, what is the next big key revenue stream that you can think of on the digital financial services?
Yeah, thanks, Sunil. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to sort of talk to all of you on what the BCs could do potentially to really digitize, rural parts of India. So to me, the way in which I and some of us would sort of look at the BC network is that they are effectively an extension of all BCFI players in the country. And that's the vision with which we need to sort of approach it. Technology is a key enabler towards enabling all of these transactions, at a split second and, with very, very little risk involved in doing the business. So to me, the vision really is to ensure that all the financial needs of a customer, could be served by that Kirana outlet who is actually, a friendly neighborhood retailer in a 2,000 population village which has possibly 300 to 400 households, who's been there doing a lot of business, who's got great relationship with consumers, and hence fulfilling all their financial needs. It could be obviously cash withdrawal and cash deposit and things like remittances. It could be, opening a bank account, and that's really, what some of our 400,000 plus BC agents do, where they actually open bank accounts for customers. They open Airtel Payments bank accounts for customers, where customers can actually withdraw cash and deposit cash. They effectively become the branch or the face of the branch for customers to sort of go in there. They also serve other financial needs like, selling an insurance product or a pension product, selling a lot of small ticket insurance products and stuff like that, I think is the key because it makes a big difference to life of consumers. And all of these are good margin businesses as far as the BC is concerned. So to me, making sure that a BC eventually is the extension, of any BFSI organization. It could be an insurance company, it could be a pensions company, like say the PFRDA, or it could be any traditional bank, wherein the BC, with the relationship they have with customers and the households in that region, could actually satisfy all the financial needs. So that is the vision, and I think if we are able to sort of move towards that vision, it could make a significant impact to the lives of consumers, and at the same time, it is a very profitable business for BCs to be in.
Thank you, Ganesh. But just let me know one revenue stream which will be like DMT or EPS. Can you speculate, or if you know, if you
actually,
don't?
Sunil, there are lots. As in the insurance category itself is so large. The penetration of insurance in India is, is very, very low. It's sub 5%. There is any report you look at, they will always say that insurance penetration can actually double or triple in the next 5 to 10 years. Right. It's also a very strong margin business, and hence that could be one thing. Second is could be lending. Again, the informal sector in terms of lending is far bigger, especially in rural, than the formal lending sector. And, so that again could be a very significant opportunity. So, each of these sectors, if any one of us choose to focus only on that particular sector, that itself is so profitable, that it can make a big difference, not just to life of consumers, but also to the business model. That would be my
Thank you, Ganesh. Any different view, Anand, Bajaj?
I would say what we as BC industry have done is dispensed the sachet of trust of banks through these networks. These retail partners have stood by the citizens in the bad times and have augmented their credibility in many ways. Government was putting money in the bank. These were the guys who were giving in the hands. That augmented trust, almost a sovereign grade, warrants calls for dispensing many more relevant services beyond financial services, because these BCs are largely a Kirana Dukan first and then a BC. And the fact that we bagged a patent in pseudo ONDC last year on digitizing and modernizing retail, why would we not want to take grocery through that? And of course, I agree with Ganesh, insurance, lending, with the transaction as the base. So what we have been able to demonstrate is we have created the tasir, texture of the retail, the customer, and created a bharosa score out of it. This is an alternate score in very many ways, which is not available in the banking. And we have started lending with a couple of partners already. So each stream, these are a distributed neural network of entrepreneurs, and you can actually pinpoint and relay multiple services through them. So it's a wide horizon, I would.
Thank you, Anand. So I'll come to your Bharosa score in my next question. Sanjeev, you have any different views or something to talk about?
Thanks, Sunil. I can't say different because I think we're all aligned on this, but I think one piece that we're observing, and I think that's a very common trait, is that since we are very focused on rural India and we're talking at a block and village level, 2/3 of the Spice Money Adhikaris, these outlets, they are under the age of 30. Now, this is what starts to tell you that who are these people who are adopting these entrepreneurship services. These are young youth, the youth of India, who is far more digitally savvy, aspirational, entrepreneurship-led. Hence, I feel that all these business lines that we're seeing, they have an opportunity to ride onto every businesses that they start to do. It started with, basic ATM banking. It'll move to financial services, banking, financial services, and then digital services. So I think you just have to layer each of these services, and how can I make them a digital center in their community to offer services to their consumers. That is an opportunity, and I think we can just ride on to each service one by one. Sunil.
Yeah, just the last from Mahesh.
Sure. I come from quite a different background because we are talking about the branch-linked BCs. So what I see is the branches in the rural India, which are serving, let's say, X number of customers, the BCs are competing fast enough towards that. That means in future, what you see is whatever the branches are doing, but for the decision making on the credit, most of the job will get moved towards the BC organizations. And over that, when we see what's going to happen when the 5G rolls out in the country, there will be another digital transformation of the BCs. See, what happened in the country was in 2006-07, Dr. Rangarajan coined the word called business correspondent. And then it just began with like a closed loop. You give a smart card and try to serve the population. And from there, it grew towards the open system sometime once the Aadhaar came in 2013-14, and your ATM cards were taken. And now the next transformation, that's what we see is these BCs becoming the branches for the future banks. Secondly, once the 5G really rolls out very well and goes to the rural areas, what you will see is another transformation of the BCs, wherein the large centers, which will be sitting behind, and they would be doing what you call as a doorstep banking. That means the customer can reach out to the central location, and from there the demand can be done, and that could be the visual as well as this. So the trust could still be sustained very well. So very large transaction can also take place. Today it's only the small transactions what the BC is doing, and including the credit, your commerce, and many other insurance. These areas could be done over the video audio. Backend and the front machine owner will be your BC, who will have a small outlet, will have the infrastructure, and should be able to get commands from the backend and carry out this. And we've been dealing with the BCs, which are 8 years, 10 years experience. So what they have learned, CRM, they know how to deal with the customers. They have the experience of operating the Windows machine and the web systems or the tabs. They understand the banking a bit. They are still being sort of taught a little more. So what I see is that for the public sector bank where we deal largely, it's a future that the banking system itself could exploit this and become the neobanks or provide many other services in future, beside obviously the ONDC or digital lending and other things. That's
Thank you, Mahesh. I think you brought a very, very valid point of 5G and 4G percolating down. And I would say that, one of the points that can be taken is that can the intelligent function of a large branch be centralized, and kind of a metaverse of customers using metaverse can actually communicate as if they are in front of the expert, whether it is wealth management or any kind of such services. That would probably lead to the fundamental challenge that most banks are facing in terms of low-cost branch in areas where currently the traditional branch is not viable. So there is a small effort started with DBU, but with 5G and Metaverse, I'm sure that you could potentially have some of these BCs also acting as an extended branch, and RBI calls them banking outlets, so they are kind of branch only, but the technology will bring further revenue streams. So thank you for that point. I'm also now bringing the other point of what is called account aggregator. So account aggregator is something which is very similar, or it is as disruptive now, potentially as disruptive as the UPI, so it could be the second WhatsApp moment for India, where you could have instantaneously a loan given basis the consent given, and the account can be all the information about the bank accounts, GST, income tax, mutual fund, etc. can be pulled on an IT interface, and now all banks are being connected. So my next question is to Shashi, that you have been in the digital lending for self-help group, GLG, etc. What do you think that the assistance in account aggregator can bring the opportunity of digital lending to masses or MSMEs beyond the GLG and SHG groups?
Thanks, Sunil. So, account aggregator is still a little bit of an early stage development, although a lot of work is happening in the back end. When it comes to lending at a last mile, I wouldn't discount JLGs, SHGs also. They also have a lot to gain from it, along with, of course, one notch above, which is primarily MSMEs and other small ticket borrowers. So the biggest benefit that one can see in account aggregator is tied up to the UPI behavior that we are seeing, right? The UPI transactions in not only urban but rural also are growing exponentially. And we are also noticing that in our repayment culture. People are resorting to digital payments back to MFI customers and BCs, which is basically conveying to us that banking behavior in itself is increasing significantly. Bank accounts are there, that we know. Of course, there are more accounts needed, but still. And those accounts were inactive for a long time before the UPI came in. And AEPS helped quite a bit, but that is more to withdraw the money that came in from outside, which is a big service, and we all should be proud about that. But now UPI, what it did is it did a P2P transactions a lot more convenient, using a bank as a platform, not so much wallets, right? As you know, it's bypassing the transient wallet system. Now that tied up to the potential for account aggregator to me is a massive opportunity from a lending perspective. And then you add on to other things, like you said, the other data sources like insurance and pensions and mutual funds and many other things, but that particular customer segment may not have much in that particular ecosystem. They may not have had too many other policies and things like that, but they definitely are showing a lot of banking behavior. Now you also asked the question about how do we provide assistance for these customers to ensure that account aggregator can be made use of. I think that is where the real benefit or real service of a BC comes in. We think that the understanding of the sensitivity of anybody's account data is very limited. I mean, even with us, forget about last mile or a rural customer. I think for them, it is very, very critical to have a trusted party to help them utilize that service. That is where the BC comes in, which we talked about, Bharosa, trust. So I think that is something that has been already earned to a large extent. Of course, there's a lot more work to do. There are challenges. But I think we have gone a long way in building that trust, that there is a banker in the neighborhood. Now, this banker can be someone who can facilitate other businesses. You talked about what next. I think there are a lot of these opportunities. Account aggregator can become a huge moment for transitioning from a transactional behavior to a more relational behavior for a customer in the village. I think to me, BC agent can be a huge connecting link to the whole, not only information asymmetry, but also the process of onboarding a customer onto an account aggregator network and take advantage of it. I'll just stop there. Yeah.
Thank you, Shashi. It was very useful. I just wanted to also tell everyone that I was attending a launch of an account aggregator. And can you imagine the lowest ticket size that was dispensed? See, typically the loan size in our traditional JLG, etc., is in the range of 1 lakh rupee plus and all that. So can you imagine, can anybody have any guess about what was the ticket size of that loan under account aggregator? Anybody?
So on Jain, I think 4,000 was
4,000? Any other guess? It was 260 rupees. It was done with GEM, the government side. 260 rupee was the loan dispersed. Now that is dramatizing because it is not viable to do a 260 rupee loan, but it was proving a point that the cost of underwriting with account aggregator will go down significantly, and the assistance will do two things. One is help the underwriting. Second is repayment. Both these things for account aggregator will be very big things. So 260 rupees is not a loan that will be dispersed through account aggregator, but the fact that it was dispersed showed that that is the ticket size that is possible, but not that it should be done. It should be done, but the technology has brought that to a $3 loan. A $3 loan can be given using account aggregator. So I will ask Ganesh, how do you think account aggregator on assistance, not $3 loan, but account aggregator on assistance, what's your thought?
Yeah, being a practitioner, let me speak that language, not the policy language. The tall man was talking about the brook, you understand, right? For men may come and men may go, but I shall flow forever. Lending was happening then, lending is happening today, and lending is going to happen tomorrow, no matter what happens, right? These are all enablers. So basically, the lending principle is absolutely simple. It is not changed for ages. The intent to pay and the capability to pay. That's what we want before we give the money, right? The balance sheets are there, capability to pay. But what do you do with the intentions? How do you go to prove that? That's very critical. Whether it's a small ticket loan or a large ticket loan, what's really missing is the intent to pay. And these are all the enablers. And I think the AA or the account aggregator platform would be a terrific tool to find out the intent of the customers. Absolutely great tool. Because, these are the small things, which being the lending business for more than 30 years now, it's very difficult to tell you, how to identify it's easy to identify a good customer, how to find out those smaller nuances, where, intent. So I think this can go a long way, account aggregator for sure. And as far as the bank statements are concerned or the financial details are concerned, it's nothing new. In those days, we had runners, they used to go and collect all the documents. I don't know whether you guys understand what runner means. Okay, poor guys will lose their job, right? With the digital media coming and those newspapers boys, they have lost their job. So we had those runners going and picking, abhi ye bank statement lana, he'll go there. Abhi wo bank statement lana, insurance policy. So all those documents were collected and a credit decision was made, right? But right now, all that at the fingertips you have. That's about it. So in those days, maybe you take 10 to 15 days to give a credit, and maybe you'll take a couple of seconds to give a credit. That's about it. Okay, it's not a game changer per se. Time to market is going to be faster. That's about it.
Yeah, thank you. I think what you have brought forward is the perspective that the cost of document collection is not so high, but then the question comes why the ticket size was 1 lakh rupee. So there was definitely cost of underwriting which was beyond just the cost of document collection. And I'll leave it at that. Coming to the point of, the second disruptor is what is called open network for digital commerce. Now, if we look at ONDC, and we have organized a few calls with all our BC partners, what is happening is that ONDC has created a very, very open source disruptive ecosystem where on one hand you have seller and you may have potentially seller app, then you have ONDC protocol in between, and then on other side you have buyer app and a buyer. Now, what has happened is today, when you want to buy, you only have very likes of Flipkart, Amazon, and maybe Nykaa or some of the select sites. Those are the places where you need to go, and the sellers were not getting the priority that they wanted, or they were not getting the choice. What has happened in case of ONDC is that you are making sure that from the seller, he can bid for a product, he can offer a product, he can also select logistic company, because now there's a whole chain of logistic company which have come who can actually independently offer. And third is proximity of customer. Village A, 5 kilometers away from village B, can there be a product sale happening, which currently doesn't happen? So that's a very, very disruptive option. And my take is that can assisted buyer app by all the BCs, corporate BCs who have their own app, can an assisted buyer app be the starting point for taking ONDC beyond the classic first 150 million customer? So that question is that can ONDC, the question to now, I think I would say Sanjeev, can ONDC be the building block for the next large revenue stream, because this has good margins, it has good potential, and it is going beyond digital services?
Thanks, Sunil. So the way I see it, and I think it's important that we step back a bit. Today, when we are talking of this whole democratization of banking and financial services across rural India, what we've been able to do, and let's say the banking correspondent network has been successfully able to do, is primarily driven by the India stack. Right? The fact that there was an open platform, architecture platform available, which helped us to democratize all of this. Similar lines, there is an open architecture of ONDC coming, which is, the aim is to digitalize commerce. And I think this network is very well placed to capitalize on the same architecture to offer the same services. So it could be different ways, and there are different use cases on this. One could be assisted, one could be also onboarding merchants around that community onto the platform. So the idea is, I think, same point. You democratized financial services earlier, and that's what we did in the last 3-4 years, if you look back, and obviously it's a journey, we'll continue to do it. The second opportunity is, how do I democratize commerce? And I think that is something that we should do, and I think we are very well suited and placed as a network to do this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sunil, if I may add, I have a couple of things to say. Yeah. So one, again, I just go back to the pen picture which I attempted to draw. There is a friendly neighborhood kirana outlet who is actually a BC, who serves possibly 300 to 500 households in that particular village. Imagine a village with a population of 2,500 or 3,000. The kirana outlet has been there in that village for a long time. Consumers trust that kirana outlet, where they trust him to do financial transactions on their behalf. Now, with the point which Sanjeev made about the stack, the India stack and the platform, the technology platform of ONDC, I do believe that a combination of that and the trust which consumers have on this BC agent, I think this can really be a massive, massive game changer. I think the size and scale which we've seen from the DMT and the EPs of the world, I personally think that a combination of trust and the stack could mean that we're going to create a category which could be far bigger than either of these two things. I think that's the point which I would want to sort of make.
Thank you, Ganesh. Anand, do you have? Contrary view?
No contrary view. Actually, this is all alignment. And actually, you will remember, Sunil, we started our journey with a focus on retailer Sashakti-karan. We wanted to put the coronation of financial inclusion, that Taj on his back, and we realized uski backbone rupture ho rahi hai. The DMart of the big basket of the world had already come in 5 years ago when we were leaving the bank. And we realized for him to do our job, we need to ensure that his backbone is resurrected and strengthened. And hence we worked on our own version of ONDC 5 years ago, for which we bagged a patent last year. We already have demonstrated, tested, taking the high end of technology to the bottom of the pyramid. Through these million-plus retailers, we have experimented even partnerships with e-commerce companies like Amazon, ITC, Big Basket, Apollo Pharmacy. This thing works. The fact that their credibility has risen to a very high standard, people trust them. And I would say that retailing ke maine badal jayenge. The shelf will have no meaning now, because it's the trust of the retailer that he will stand there. And it is about the moment where one asks, क्या मिलेगा? सब कुछ मिलेगा. That trust is what will bring everything from अम्मी जान के गोदाम से लेके आपको banking का trust sachetized सब कुछ मिल रहा होगा. And ONDC is a framework which enables, Sanjeev said it right, that can my million retailers help the next 10 million retailers next door to ride on to this? Not everyone will be as conducive. Not everyone, for everyone will it be viable, but everyone has an opportunity to rise onto the same platform platter, Sunil.
Thank you. Mahesh.
I have a small experience in this space. We tried the near shop. That means try to connect all the nearby neighboring shops, and then people should be able to get something. And when the ONDC came in, we obviously followed that, and we went back to the shops and we said, okay, why don't you join this ONDC framework? The biggest challenge that came up is the cash and the GST. That means the guy who is doing a small shop of, let's say, 10 lakh or 20 lakh per annum, the ONDC required the GST registration to onboard. And we couldn't onboard even the city of the Bangalore. We were looking at the small kirana only. We were not going to the very specific like restaurants and others. And we found it very difficult to get them. So we said, okay, let's create a marketplace. You don't worry about the GST. We will get an intermediary who will carry out your work actually, and plus the return of the material. Because e-commerce requires that freedom that the customer can return the material if he doesn't want. And the ONDC protocol required the 10% money to be retained before. So the sellers were not willing to accept that. So these are the two problems which led to the marketplace coming in. So what we believe that the ONDC protocol guys, the government, will look at these two things, and instead of emerging another brokerage in between, that is a marketplace, right? It should perhaps allow that also to exist, and these two problems solved. I'm sure that what Anand is saying and what all others are saying, this is a new big thing like QUOTIENT protocol. That your digital landing protocol. This is the next big thing in my opinion.
Thank you. I think for this subject, I must ask Shashi and Ganesh also. So Ganesh.
I had a different view on this. See, remember, we are taking a bank to a BC. We are not taking a BC to a bank. Yeah, it's a complicated stuff. So I think we got to be a bit guarded here. Multi-skill, multitasking, good to talk, but you got to understand the limited skill of a BC while taking all these products. And we have seen, some of these products like lending, or the insurance for that matter. The after-sales service, in lending you have collection, on insurance you have claims. It's pretty laborious. You can't sell a dream there, so you got to be a little guarded while giving all these products. So that's what from my experience.
Yeah, I agree. So there's one more thing. See, I think we should, when we call about BC agents, I want to reservedly say that, all the loan officers that are running around in the country, including the MFI loan officers, should be counted, technically as business correspondents. They are corresponding business on behalf of banks or lenders or financial institutions at the doorstep of customers. And these are moving agents. They go to the customer's household, literally. And that is a much better service than someone sitting in a shop and expecting to come to find them. I think let's not just count only the fixed agents as agents. Moving agents are also agents. That's point number one. Point number two, the trust factor is much more than someone who is actually visiting your house and doing a service, and that too a credit service. Because credit is what is valued more by customers, because that is the most needed service, perceivably so. I know other services are even more needed, but from a customer perspective, credit makes sense. Now layering that on ONDC kind of a product on the top of it. While Ganesh's caution is quite valid, I see most of the customers we deal with are also sellers. They're not just buyers. And especially from a lending perspective, we lend for small businesses. Generally they are supposed to consume it for some income generation activity, and they sell something. And now this can be a revolution to help them actually come on an ecosystem where they can actually sell their produce. It can be a farmer, it can be a small shopkeeper, and then try and take benefit of a larger market that is probably beyond their village. That is one aspect of it. This also gives them access to better credit opportunities because now they are digitizing their sales, which also gives better visibility of their business, hence better access to credit. That is the second part of it. So sell better, borrow better, and then when you borrow and you sell and you're visible, you also pay better because then there is that aspect of credit scores, and then, of course, ability to pay also goes up because now their markets have expanded and they're much larger. So theoretically speaking, this loop of sell better, borrow better, and pay better can propel the economy, in my opinion. That's where ONDC helps in this particular segment more than buying, in my mind. Because buying can be done today also. Amazon delivers a product in a village also today. There are hardly any pin codes that are left out by Amazon or Flipkart. But the thing is, they don't necessarily buy from these people. Hence, the goods are coming from towns to villages. Rather, the lot of produce happens in villages, which can also be sold back in towns, which actually is the biggest missing link, which I think ONDC fills with the help of these assisted, both fixed and moving agents. This can be made possible with all due respect to the caution that Ganesh really posed. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Shashi. I fully agree with you. And I think jury is still out. The fundamental question around customer experience, after sales service, etc., will be questions which will be there and will not be solved overnight. But yes, the fact that somebody has option to sell, which was not existing earlier, and has equal opportunity. When I was working for Motorola, it was called an equal opportunity employer. So here we are talking about an equal opportunity selling opportunity available to this. So clearly it is very, very powerful. So UPI, account aggregator, ONDC are the three very disruptive innovation, all coming from different stacks. And I am personally very bullish about it. Of course, we will have those challenges. The last one which I want to talk about is the fact that when we talk about neobank or digital bank, again, we are talking about the first 150 million customer. They have all kinds of cards. They have all kinds of bank accounts. They can do everything. They can do wealth management, etc. What about the next 300 million? So the question to the panelist is that can BC, which is called for the last 4-5 years through a regulatory guidance that it's a banking outlet, can BC be the first step to neo-banking for the next 300 million? And this I will ask first from Ganesh.
If you define a neobank as something which, as a platform, where consumers can, in a fully digital manner, have complete control of all their financial transactions they want to do in a fully safe and secure manner, I think that's what a BC agent or a BC platform offers today. Whether it is opening a bank account or buying an insurance product or a cash deposit or cash withdrawal, which are serious financial services transactions, or whether it is, booking a ticket, or booking a train ticket or a flight ticket or a bus ticket, by telling the BC, saying, listen, I want to go from place A to place B, can you give me what the best options are? Okay, fine, please book this ticket. This is the cash, and I immediately get an SMS with the details of the ticket. I think, all of these are things which happen even today. I think the objective really with which all of us will need to sort of do is to how do we A, standardize the experience which customers have, and B, how do we make sure that we do it at scale? We anyway do it at scale for things like DMT and AEPS. The question really is how do we, for example, on things like utility payments, how do we make sure that a customer doesn't need to walk across to the utility branch? Today, for example, for us, more than 70% of the utility bill payments we do in the offline space happen in Tier 5 and Tier 6 markets, which is villages with less than 5,000 population. Now, the question really is how do we make sure that we do it at scale for all of us and not just in a particular market and industry? I think the moment we sort of get there, I genuinely believe that that moment would have arrived, Sunil.
Thank you, Ganesh. I'll just have one more from Sanjeev on neo banking, and then I'll put it to question answer.
No, so I agree. I think on the concept of the only piece that I think I definitely want to add is when I look at neo banking and I look at a rural consumer, I think the opportunity is keep offering ability to offer all banking financial services to that consumer from different banking partners or financial service partners, which also means I continue to say an open architecture and these banking outlets, how can they be seen as extended arms of banks, financial services, right? I think that is where is the larger opportunity in my mind. And I think that is where I think there's a lot of work needs to be done on how we collaborate with all banks, financial services, how these outlets are seen as extended arms for everyone. Because that's the only way you can get the next 300 million or 500 million into the formal banking and financial services. So that's my answer. There is an opportunity. There's a big opportunity here.
Thank you. One more from Shashi.
Just in a lighter note, Neo is a bit abused word, I believe. Neo, in my mind, is no employees on rolls. But you can have others, do the services for you, like BC agents. They are also physical points. When they say Neo, it's 100% digital. I think that's a bit utopian for the customer base that we're talking about. Assistance is still a critical piece. So let's not, believe Neo is, Neo means new in simple terms. So people kind of tend to believe that everything can happen in the cloud. But I think we need to recognize that not having employees on rolls doesn't mean that it's 100% digital. It is actually a touch point that is created by somebody like BC.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, thank you, Shashi, for coining a new term for neo-banking. I would say that, one of the service that potentially can be a very big game changer is that today you have UPI onboarding requires ATM card or debit card. And if you use biometric to authorize UPI, that would probably add more customers than what the first 150 million have added. And if you do that, and then now feature phone is on UPI, so you pretty much have covered everybody without needing the debit card or ATM card for authentication. So this is something that is clearly possible to do, and Neobank, BC as Neobank, can help that to onboard UPI across the entire 922 million bank accounts. So for this great discussion, I'll now open up the session for Q&A. Anybody who wants to have a question may raise his hand. And yeah, so first, Vivek.
So, my question is mix and match. So, we discussed APS DMT, what next?
Please take a mic, please.
So the question is, we discussed the APS DMT, what next? And the UPI, the number of transactions is increasing day by day. See, if the UPI is increasing day by day, it means consumer himself or herself is using the B2C platform. If the UPI numbers are increasing, what will be the scope of BC model next 5 to 10 years? Because this question is coming in many discussions with us. See, I know few of the answers, but I need expert advice so that I can increase my knowledge.
So who can answer? Sanjeev?
Okay, so multiple layers of answers to this question, but question is, what is the horizon you want to see? Okay, we're talking of, so if even, let's go one by one. First question that comes to it, rural will also go digital, right? So how do you support an assisted services model in an environment where the world is going to go digital? The question is, how soon can it go? And how big is that segment? Right? So for example, if you go deeper into this, we talk of 46 crore Jan Dhan accounts. Question is, how many of them use UPI? According to our analysis, not more than 5 crore. So today, 5 crore consumers use UPI in rural. Now, what is the segment which is still exposed, and why is the adoption not happening? So I think the journey, there are two things that's going to happen. One is, yes, we got to be prepared for rural going digital, and it is going to happen. Second, I still feel that there will be services like today that Urban India does. Not all products and services have gone completely digital, right? There are services which you need assistance, and I think that both models, according to me, will coexist, and there'll be different segments of consumers who will also coexist over the next 5 to 10 years. So that's my answer, Vivek.
Can I add a couple of things? I think over the last 5 to 7 years, there have been two big disruptions which have tried to remove cash from the economy. One was demonetization, second was COVID. Despite all of that today, cash in circulation as a percentage of GDP, it's at an all-time high. Sorry?
September last year, 21 was high since independence.
Yeah, so I think there's 29 lakh crores of cash in circulation. So I don't see any issue on the BC or the fact that BCs need to deal with cash because, as humans, I think we are more comfortable with cash. Although, of course, digital is growing at much faster rates. But fact is, that in the last 7 years, cash in circulation as a percentage of GDP is an all-time high. And that itself is an indicator, that the future is really, really bright.
Thank you, Ganesh. I have time for only one more question. Ajay, please.
Hi, morning. Yes, morning. My name is Ajay. How we see it actually basically is actually distribution as a service, right? We don't see it as a BC. We don't see it as a DMA or a DSA, right? And when we skin it further, we realize that, there are different species. Retail is different, right? And we make multiple visits. A retailer really doesn't have time to actually talk to a customer because he'll always have 5 people standing in front of, his counter. And if I talk him, would you do a banking for me? He says, no, I would have employed somebody. Possibly my son, when he, passes out, I'll employ him for a banking. Now, the industry has been split on acquiring, one. Second, KYC, BS, BDA and all, $20 account payout. Now, if we really have to, create a distribution, I see, what I think what I need advice from this August panel is on 2 things. One, how do you see capacity building, right? Because in case we have to upsell, right, a funded account, which would require customer to maintain $10,000 from the same set, right? How do you see that, playing out in next 5 years, right? To how do you shift from basic acquiring to, other value-added services? VAS, I would say that, right? So in case if we see distribution as a service, and I want to actually, go out in the market, what is it that we, at a very, broad level, do we see this industry to evolve next 5 years?
Great question. Anand?
Yeah. So it will be like 2 kilo आलू, 1 kilo प्याज, 500 रुपए कैश देना भैया. Banking के लिए अलग line नहीं लगेगी, अलग time नहीं होगा अजय. It's the same interaction. The merger of the grocery list is what will enable and is enabling a retailer. 1 महीने का OTT देना भैया, bike का insurance भी साथ में. So the grocery list has now expanded in distribution as a service. The retailer very clearly sees that banking has brought in extra footfall into his counter. How does he harness that extra footfall where someone has come to only withdraw cash is also ending up buying the grocery? The retailers who earn as meager as 250 rupees a month end up gaining 50 new customers whom he sells his other products to, and then builds his own Bharosa score and then is eligible for borrowing from the partner bank. So it's a तासीर बदल रही है retailing की, ये ध्यान रखिएगा.
If I can add one quick challenging point to what he mentioned answering you. I think 5 to 10 years from now, BCs will see a PCO moment. We will see an extinction of BC agents as they are today, unless we rediscover the whole model. So I think it is not right to think that there will always be cash. There will always be people walking into an outlet to draw. I don't know how many of us go really to the ATM these days. So I have not been to ATM for a long time now. So that will happen to a BC agent as well. This is my personal prediction, and we need to be prepared to upgrade these BC agents, that's the upskilling point you mentioned, to become better advisors than better transaction agents. That's my prediction. I wish this is wrong, but I think in 10 years now we don't see any PCO booths today. We may not see BC outlets the way they are today. So, just challenging all of my peers and myself that we should be prepared for that moment.
One second, just to add to what Shashi was saying, we haven't done any transactions in my BC business. I don't understand what these guys were talking about transactions. So I'm a BC for last 8 years, the first commercial BC probably, and we are lending focused, liability focused, insurance focused. We don't understand transaction. I've never done it. We are still survived, right?
So yeah, so that's India. So you have different categories of BCs, different business model. Even I would say, I'll just give an example and I'll take 30 seconds. You go to a petrol pump, you don't need the petrol pump owner does not need to sell petrol because it's selling. So cash in, cash out, AEPS is like petrol. But the moment you go for lubricants, he needs to do selling, solicitation, time. So insurance, all other services require soliciting. So there is going to be a similar model on BC that not one size fit all. There will not be every BC doing every service. So there will be, I mean, obviously, the moment you have 2 million BCs doing insurance, we have a problem because there is not going to work on that. But clearly, you will have very large number of BCs capable and skilled or super skilled with training for that particular module. So I must, with this, thank all the my panel speakers. Great discussion, great difference of opinions, and great new coin, neobank. And I would be happy to take more questions offline later on, and these speakers are available. Thank you very much for all your time.
Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you to each of our panelists and our moderator here, and thank you, audience, for joining in today's session. I'd once again thanking all our panelists here. We request you to gather together for a group picture, post which we shall move forward for the proceedings. And I request everybody to please mind your steps. All right. Thank you, everybody.